Good morning, guys. So what I want to do today is I want to demonstrate some examples on today's topic, which is special products of polynomials. And the first topic is called square of a binomial. Okay, so if you go back to polynomials that I showed you earlier last week, a binomial is a two-term expression, okay? So what that means is that it has two terms, just as seen here, okay? And there are special formulas based on whether it's squared with a plus or a minus, okay? So if you have a number plus a number squared when it has the addition sign, this is the formula that you're going to use, and you can only do this with binomials. So what they are saying here is that this a squared, it means taking the a number and squaring it. Then you have plus 2 times whatever a is times whatever b is, plus whatever the b is and squaring it. So the only thing here is that you have plus plus in between the three terms that are here. Same thing for this one. The only thing that's different is that this is a minus sign. So you're still squaring whatever the a is, okay? Then you have a minus because it's the difference. 2 times whatever a is times whatever b is. Now this is all times because they're all connected. There's no sign in between them. Plus b squared, whatever b is. So let's look at this first example. And I'll wait a couple of minutes to make sure that you guys have pencil, paper, whatever you have on you to write down this first example. Okay, so number one, we have a binomial because it has two terms and it's squared. So what you need to look at first is the sign that's between the two terms. So this one's a plus. So since this is plus, we're going to use this formula, the plus formula. So I would write down that formula, a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, okay? Once you figure out what formula you're using, you have to identify who's the a and the b in your example. So in this case, your a is the x, your b is the 7. So now let's go with the formula. A squared, well, what is a? A is x, so it's x squared. Now comes down the plus. Now you have 2 times ab. So the 2 stays the same, so bring that down. Now what is a? A is x. What is b? The 7. So 2 times x times 7. I'll put the little times dots there. So when we clean it up later. Then bring down the plus. Now what's your b? Your b is 7, and they want you to square the 7. Okay? So now we just have to clean this up the way it looks. So we have x squared. We can't do anything with that, so we bring it down. Then you have plus 2 times x times 7. To simplify this better, you have to multiply the 2 and the 7 together, which gives you 14x. Plus, what's left over? 7 squared. What is 7 squared? 49. And that's your final answer. Let's do example number 2. Write this one down. This is 7x minus 3 squared in parentheses. So since this binomial is the minus one, we're going to use this formula with the minus. A squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Okay? Now, now you need to identify who your a and your b is. So your a in this case is the first term of this binomial, 7x. That's a. Your b is your 3. So now let's plug it into the appropriate places. First, we start off with a squared. Well, what is a squared? 7x with parentheses squared minus 2 times, what's a? 7x times, what's b? 3. Plus, what is b squared? b is 3, so 3 squared. Oops, I put cubed. And I'll put parentheses around that. Now we just have to simplify this better. Now, this 7x squared means this 2 goes to the 7 and to the x, like in our exponent rules. So 7 squared x squared. What is 7 squared? 7 squared is 49 x squared. So this term, all that's done. Bring down the minus sign. You have 2 times 7 times 3. I'm leaving the x by itself last because we can't do anything with that. So now we have 2 times 7 times 3. Well, what's 2 times 3? 6. What's 6 times 7? 42. Plus 3 squared, that's 9. And that's your final answer. You can't combine those because none of them are like terms. This is this x squared, this is an x, and the 9 is a constant. Okay, so now let's go to the next one. Our next binomial that we're going to square is 4x minus y squared. So, since it's the minus, that means we have to use this formula, the one that we just used. A squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Label who your a and your b is. My first term is my a, so the 4x is my a. My y is the b. So now we have to do, in parentheses, a squared. That's 4x squared. Minus the 2 times who? Whatever a is, that's 4x. Whatever b is, times y. Plus, what is b squared? Y squared. So now we have to simplify further. What this means, with this 4x squared, that means 4 squared. What is 4 squared? 16. X squared is just x squared. Over here, you have the minus a 2 times a 4x times a y. So multiply the coefficients, 2 times 4, which is 8. And then you have this xy. You just bring it down, xy. Plus y squared. And that's your final answer. And then we'll do the last one. This binomial is 3m plus n squared. So since it's a plus, we have to go all the way back up here. That's our plus formula. Plus is in between the terms. So write that formula down, a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Label who your a and your b are. This is my a, this is my b. So now we have to square the a. That means 3m squared plus 2 times 3m times n. I'm using a little parentheses now. Looks a little better so I can see all the different pieces. And what's my b? N. So that's just n squared. So now let's simplify this a little bit better. What is 3 squared? Well, that's 9. What's m squared? Just m squared. Now you have, look at your coefficients. 2 times 3. What's 2 times 3? 6. And then you have this m times n. You just bring it down together, m, n. plus n squared. And then you're done. It's all in order. It's in descending order, which is from greatest to least, and it's all ready to go. If you happen to be asked to square a binomial, okay, and you didn't remember what these two formulas were, your last resort is to use FOIL, because you can only use FOIL with a binomial. Okay, so let's go back to example number 1. X plus 7 squared. This squared is telling you you have 2 of these binomials, 2 of these terms. So in order to rewrite this, you would say x plus 7 times x plus 7. And you have multiplication here, so you could use the FOIL formula. X times x, that's your first, outer, inner, last. X times x is x squared. Outer, x times 7 is plus 7x. Inner, 7 times x is plus 7x again. And then last is 7 times 7 plus 49. Then from here, you would just have to simplify better by combining your 2 like terms that are in the middle. So bring down your x squared. Then you have 7x plus 7x. 7 plus 7 is what? Plus 14x. There's no other like term, so bring down the plus 49, and that would be your answer. Look at your first example answer using the formula. Are they the same? Yes, they are. So if you happen to forget these 2 formulas, say you're taking some kind of quiz or test, and you don't memorize these 2 formulas, you can always use the FOIL method. So then that leads us to the last example. Last topic, sum and difference pattern. So if you're given 2 binomials, okay, 2 binomials, that means there's an A represents a number and B represents a number. This is what it's going to turn out to be, okay? Notice that this is multiplication and they have opposite signs, plus, minus, okay? So what you're going to do is look at the first example I have here in example 5. I have x plus 10 times x minus 10. Now your A's are the x's, they're the same. Your B's are 10, they're the same, okay? The terms, the A's and the B's have to be the same in order to use this formula, okay? So all you really do is you take whatever A is, so in this case it's x, and square it. Then you have a minus sign because it's opposite signs, it has to be minus. It's called sum and difference. And you see your B's, okay, are the same and they're both 10. That's 10 squared, okay? So then what does that actually give me? What is the last thing that I can simplify? The 10 squared. So I can't do anything with this x squared. So I have x squared minus, what is 10 squared? 100. And that's your final answer. So let's look at the next one. Who are your A's? Your A's are 2x, 2x. They're the same. They have to be the same. Who are your B's? 1, 1. They have to be the same. So what does that mean? You have to square your A, so that's 2x squared. Bring down a minus. And then your B is 1. That's 1 squared. Well, that part is going to be easy. So now you have, in order to understand this a little bit better, you have 2 to the second power, x to the second power. Well, let's clean this up. 1 squared is just 1. That doesn't change. But what is 2 to the second power? 4. Can I do anything with the x squared? No. So it's just 4x minus 1. Done. And here's your last one. Okay? You have 2 binomials being multiplied. the terms are the same. The A is the same, the B is the same. This is your A, this is your B. Separated, they're one separated by an addition, one separated by a minus. That's what you have to have. You have to have opposite signs. So now we have to do a squared because that's what the formula tells us to do. A squared, that's x squared minus 3y squared. Well, in parentheses, I'm going to put 3y squared like that. So what that shows you is that x squared minus 3 squared y squared. What is the last thing to simplify? The 3 squared. X squared minus 9y squared. Done. And that's today's lesson. All right, so why don't you guys review these examples that we did? The ones that we just did, sum and difference pattern, and the ones that we did for square of a binomial. Okay? If you have questions, you know how to reach me through email.